The library here thinks we are the shiz.
Why?
The lead was like, that is so cool. Oh my goodness, you're like famous.
What did you tell her?
I was like, yeah, my friend and I, who currently works at the Zion Public Library, said we do a podcast called Novel Universe where we talk about the newest, like, buzzworthy books. And, it's been ranged from YA to adult. And she was like, ecstatic. She was like, oh my goodness, like, is it hard to start one up? I've been telling people that we need to do this, but like legit thought we were the shit.
Well, that's cool.
I was like,
hey everyone, and welcome back to the Novel Universe with your hosts Dawn and Ashley. And today we are discussing and rating The Maid by Nita Prose. This is adult cozy mystery. I have never read a cozy mystery before, so this was interesting. Per usual, if you are new here, it is not usual, but if you are new here, we will tell you what the book is about. We will do a spoiler-free edition where we'll say what we liked and what we didn't like. And then we will go into a spoiler edition and we will let you know when that begins so that you will not be spoiled. Our next book that we will be reading and discussing will be The House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. Yay! Which is book 2 in Crescent City, which I'm sure all of you are currently reading. And we're excited about that one. But we're not talking about that today. We are talking about The Maid. And let's talk about what it's about. I am going to BS my way through this description because I don't feel like reading that long Goodreads description. So it is basically about Molly the maid, who is unlike other girls, which that is what it says on the Goodreads description. She is a maid.
Love it.
And I thought that was really funny. And one day while she is cleaning, a very wealthy, important patron dies. And she may or may not be suspected as the killer. So like I said, it's kind of a cozy mystery, which means it is not a hardcore whodunit. It's kind of like tuck you in at night. I don't know what cozy mystery is. That don't sound right, but all right. Did I miss anything? Ashley usually does the intro.
You did an excellent job.
Okay. Let's get to the rating. Ashley, what did you rate The Maid?
I actually rated it a 4.25.
Wow.
What did you rate?
Look at you. I gave it a 3.
Oh, man. Okay. I want to hear all the deets because my original rating was a 4. And then I finished it all of the way. And I was like, gasp.
Gasp. Okay.
Gasp. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about this with you though. So we can go into things we did not like. Do you want to start or you want me to?
I can start. Okay.
Okay.
My first, and this is kind of a minor dislike, was I felt like the author spent most of her time developing Molly and not enough time developing the other characters. I felt like the rest of them were really flat. None of them were actually interesting. They were all pretty lackluster. Like no one was even close to being as developed as Molly.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think like the reason behind like my higher rating was not from the characters. I think it was from the actual story itself, because I agree the characters are just like one-toned. And then even when they have their coming of a age moment, it's like, is it really? I actually didn't like how dumb Molly is. Like she's dumb.
Well,
in some retrospects, not all. She's just like ill-informed. Okay, she is ill-informed, so much so that she leads such a sheltered life, like someone who has never been out in society. And she's out within society every single day.
Yeah, I think she's on the spectrum. It's not really stated, but I think she's autistic, but it's not said.
Okay. I don't mean offense. I really don't.
So I was like, I think she's autistic. I think that's why.
Oh no, I didn't even think about it that way. I literally was just like, oh my goodness, like how do you not realize what is happening? Like general common sense has somehow been left behind. So that would make sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
I'm not sure why the author didn't like say yes, definitely, or no. I know it was on purpose, but I mean, for the reason that you didn't catch it, maybe she should have. But yeah, I mean, as someone who works with teens, I'm a teen librarian. As someone who works with teens all the time, I kind of caught it immediately. I was like, and that's why I was like, when the description in Goodreads says Molly is unlike other girls, that's why I thought it was funny, because it was like, well, yeah, she is unlike other girls. It's kind of that, everybody hates that. She's unlike other girls. Everybody hates that shit. But when the author said it about Molly, I thought it was kind of cute because she's on the spectrum. At least that's what I think.
I was like, did you garner this information from Goodreads, like from other people's like testaments?
No. Okay. I think what made me think so is just because she doesn't catch social cues often. She doesn't know how to read facial expressions. Like she's missing something in her development, and it's something that she can't help. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That sheds a lot of light on things.
Yeah. Does that change your enjoyment of the book now that you know?
Maybe a little bit, but not like maybe a 4. Because then I have questions though about how things were carried out then. Like, is that abuse? We'll talk. And we'll talk about that. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So what should I enjoy that? No.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Okay,
yeah.
So we're definitely going to talk about it. Things I did not like. Okay, there.
Yeah. Okay, so my main dislike is the investigation aspect of the book. I am a big time enjoyer of true crime. And I don't mean NCIS. I mean like real shows about real detectives solving real murders. This book was crap as far as the investigation. And that is why that's why I gave it a 3, is because the investigation part of the book is terrible. I feel like Nita, her name is not Nita. Nita did not do her research on how detectives do their job. And I think that would have benefited, considering this is a mystery. I don't care if it's cozy or not. If you're going to put a mystery in your book and detective work, then you probably should make sure you know how detectives work. Case in point, the detective. Detective Stark. What an idiot. She accused Molly of being this criminal mastermind. And I'm like, are you watching this woman's behavior? Can you not notice something is amiss here and you think she is a criminal mastermind? So this is how great of a detective she is. She says, this is when Molly is being accused of murder, and it's not a spoiler because it's in the description. She says to Molly, "You stole food from a cart. Murderer." Really? She stole uneaten food from a cart. What kind of detective are you? Yeah, so that one was...
She was hungry.
She was hungry.
Uh-huh.
The other thing was that the guy who was murdered, Mr. Black, is a high profile person. He is a very wealthy man. He is in the tabloids. Like he's not a celebrity, but he's an important man in town. And they didn't really seem to treat it like he was an important person. Mm-hmm. They were just like, he's dead. We're not really going to do we're not going to really question his children who actually have motive to kill him, or his first wife who has motive, or his current wife, which is probably going to be the main suspect because she's the wife and she has a lot to gain from his death. We're not gonna question those people. We are going to accuse the maid because she stole food from the cart. I couldn't get over it. I couldn't. So that's why it's a 3, guys.
You crack me up with your like true crimeness, because like I can't ever watch true crime because it literally gives me like nightmares because it is so real. And it's not like NCSI. Like I love NCSI. I'd watch it daily, daily. And I think because it was like a whole production thing, right? You know, and then when I have to agree with you though with Stark and how they portrayed her as a detective, I'm like, you're dumb.
Very dumb.
You're dumb for and I'm saying this in the correct term, okay? You know, she did the whole like detective, like I'm going to back you into a corner and manipulate what actually happened to push blame on you to see if you're going to, you know, react in any capacity. And it's like, when you see this, the girl literally just go, I think you need a tissue, like, or something. Like she has no blatant reaction, right? Or she's thinking about like how squeaky the styrofoam cup is because she has like ADD about it being like 100% clean, right? You know, like I said, would also put her on spectrum. Oh my goodness. There are things, there's like revelations happening in my brain right now. Anyway, I have to agree with you though, with the other thing I didn't like is that I feel like Mr. Black, you know, the deceased, if you will, like his lack of luster, like was just like blown out of his sails. Like he's supposed to be this big honcho bancho guy, and he's like left behind the scenes in a weird way. Not to be like pun intended, but it's like I feel like that would have added more to the story if we would have had more of that instead of like this whole thing transpiring between, you know, her and Rodney and Juan Manuel and Chernobyl and like all these other people that are just completely obsolete. So yeah, that was another thing that I did not like about the book. I'm sure you have more.
Yeah. Oh, I do. The theme, which is invisibility, basically that's like the major theme of the book, which I thought the theme was good, but I think the theme was forced. Ashley and I, we are avid readers. We have been in like traditional book clubs, and so we know how to discuss a book. And when an author does what Nita Prose does, it kind of ruins the discussion aspect of a book discussion. So there were several moments where other characters would say, "This makes me invisible," or the author would say, "She felt invisible because." And when you do that, I think it doesn't allow the reader to infer anything. You're basically telling the reader everything. If you don't do that, then in a book discussion, you could ask what other characters felt invisible. But the author told us who felt invisible. So there's no discussion. I don't know if I'm making any sense. But there's no fun in discussing, well, Mrs. Black felt invisible, or because, you know, he wasn't very nice to his wife, or, you know, the grandma felt invisible. I'm just making stuff up, but you know, I don't like it when authors write on the nose like that, because it just diminishes the criticalness of the book. It could have been so much more critical if she had just not told us all the other characters that felt invisible.
Yeah, no, I agree, because that was like my last final thing that I didn't like about this book was the fact that like we talked about the invisibility of Molly way too much, and it lost its, you know, its weight within the book, which would have been for such a good discussion, because there were so many quotes within the book that talks about like, you know, not feeling seen or wanting it to be so clean that everything is wiped away, like really good, powerful parts. And then it's like, but I feel like it was like one of those like surface things, like we're going to touch on it it is okay to talk about something as the theme of the book without saying anything, or just dropping a one-liner for us to kind of just hold on to, like, oh, there is some parallel, characteristics here. Oh, and like this is why. And I feel like that was kind of like one of those things where I just, I was enjoying the book a lot, and then I like knocked it down a little bit. I'm a little bit softer than Dawn is on ratings. So I was expecting, like, when I was doing my rating, I'm like, she's gonna be like, I'm a 3.
And I was.
And you were. She love how we can just call it out. That's gonna be our next time for when we do ratings. We're just gonna be like, and yours is up.
Do you have any nitpicks?
I don't, but I will support all your nitpicking time that you
Well, it's nitpicking time. Last time it was nitpicking time with Ashley, and now it is nitpicking time with Dawn. I have a quiz for you, Ashley.
Okay, Dawn.
Where do you think this book is set?
New York. Manhattan.
Did it say New York?
I don't know. I'm guessing.
No. And that was a nitpick for me. I don't know where the hell this book is set. It does not say.
The Regency Hotel?
Well, it doesn't say what city, what country. Okay, so I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I was like, okay, because at first I thought it was New York too, because you think of very fancy big building. I don't know why we assume New York. Other countries have big fancy hotels too. I don't know why we just assume it's New York.
But Molly the Maid, Made in Manhattan, it's a movie, like it's a whole thing. Okay, Regency, what city is the Regency Hotel? It says on Wikipedia, it's New York.
But doesn't mean that there's a lot of hotels called the Regency. It doesn't mean it's New York. Anyway, this is why I say this. Okay, so I thought it was America because Juan is from Mexico, and Mexicans immigrate to America. Okay, and then at one point, Giselle says, "I'm from," and she says a city. She says Detroit. She goes, "I'm from Detroit," and Americans know Detroit. We know, the circumstances of Detroit. It's implied. When someone says they're from Detroit, you're like, ooh, girl, it's implied. However, Molly references the Queen. We don't do that here. We don't say, oh, I can't remember the exact quote, but she references the Queen a couple times. And then she says at the very end, there were other things I can't think of them off the top of my head, but at the very end, Mr. Preston says, I could go for a cuppa. We don't say that here. So I was like, are we in England? I was so confused. But I was like, Juan would not immigrate to England. He would not cross another ocean. That doesn't make any sense. English people don't know. Yeah. English people don't know what Detroit is. If you are talking to an English person as an American, you would say, I'm from America and I'm from a city called Detroit. You wouldn't say I'm from, because British people, they don't know the implications of Detroit. They don't know what that means. So it was really confusing. However, the author is from Canada. So Canada, they use a dollar. They kept saying dollar, which I was like, there wouldn't be in England, they wouldn't say dollar, they'd say pound. So it was like, okay, they say dollar in Canada. They would probably say cuppa. They don't follow the monarchy. I mean, like the Queen doesn't rule over them like they do in England. And she doesn't really rule in England either, but you know what I mean? But they still are more familiar with the Queen than Americans are. I think she's part of their country somehow. That would make sense for them to reference the Queen. And I could see Juan crossing over to Canada. Like, it's not that hard to go from America to Canada. And Canadians would know what Detroit is because Detroit is on the border of Canada. So I think it's set in... I don't think it's set anywhere. I think it's just a city. I'm pretty sure it was intentional for her to not say a city. But as for someone like me, I like to know where I am.
Yeah.
And it's go ahead.
I think it's a valid point. However, I think that it was set in at New York, but that's just because like the main Regency is in New York City. So when I think about that, I think about, there. But if our author is Canadian, like Canadians do say cuppa. I just Googled it. You can say cuppa. Or what does cuppa mean? Like a bunch of like, something like that. And it would be close. It could be. It could be in Canada.
Yeah,
It could be in America. But
I
who
don't,
knows?
if it's set in New York, then her editor did her a disservice because, like I said, we don't say cuppa here. And I remember what it is. Molly said, keep calm and carry on. We don't say that here. That's a British term.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think that it was intentionally ambiguous.
Yeah.
Because that was weird.
Let's move into the things that we liked. So I really did like the metaphors that Prose used for like cleanliness and like being clean and like how it related to Molly's life. Like I thought that was like, it was good and it was bad because it was like too much at sometimes, but I also like really enjoyed it because it wasn't just like something she mentioned right at the beginning. It was a fluid characteristic that she had. Within everything. Like she was like it in her home, she was like that outside with other people, like and at work. Like so it wasn't just like this facade that she put on with worrying about people scuffing dirt on the floors and why can't they just choose with their mouth closed, and the difference between having an elegant teacup versus a styrofoam cup and like that whole thing. Maybe it isn't England or Canada because they had tea.
Well, a lot of Americans like tea, so I wasn't
sit
really
down for a cuppa.
Exactly. Don't say that.
Okay, your turn.
I agree. That was my first thing. Like, this author was very detailed in how she cleaned. Like, she described how this woman cleaned floors and made beds, and it didn't bother me because I felt like that was a really great way for us to get to know who Molly was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said in the dislike section where she was, I won't call her overdeveloped. I would say she was developed really well, whereas everybody else was not so much. But I did like how she really did take the time to describe everything Molly did and her thought process, because it really made us get into this girl's mind. So I did like that part.
Awesome. All right. I really liked Gran as a character, even though Gran is deceased. But the fact that like her Gran just like held a very special part in her heart, which is very interesting to me because she seems like a deep thinker, but yet not a deep thinker at the same time, our character Molly. Because her Gran would say to her over and over again, dear girl, do not fret yourself into a tizzy. Life has a way of sorting itself out, like over and over again. And like she'd have these like deep, pivotal like moments in her own mind. And then it's like stuff would happen. And I'm like, how do you not know? Because it seemed as though she was like an old soul, but a smart old soul. So anyway, I liked the quotes that her Gran left her with. Your turn.
Okay. I did like the themes of the book. We talked about invisibility. There was a lot of loneliness here too, especially with Molly after her Gran died. She was incredibly lonely, and she said so. And I did like that theme. I like the theme of found family. So there were a lot of good themes going on here, which makes for a good discussion. If she hadn't have written so on the nose, it would have been better.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I really liked this whole talk about like as we learn like what happens in the murder and all of that stuff unfolds, the mystery itself. There's a part where Molly talks about, her fear of speaking because she was trying to be careful about her words. And I thought that was so important because how many times do we as people just like spout off what comes to mind versus like really mulling over what we're thinking about and how we're going to say that and how that affects everything else that's happening. So I really liked that. That was towards the end of the book, this careful of speech, because she wasn't sure how people were going to take her and perceive her words. I thought that was good.
This is kind of stupid, but I liked the Olive Garden part of it.
I
like that she liked the Olive Garden and she got the tour of Italy because I get the tour of Italy when I go. And she was just like, oh, this is where we go for special occasions. And I don't know, I thought it was really sweet.
Yeah, there was a special memento in Olive Garden, if you will. They talked about the soup, salad, and breadsticks, and I was like, yes. How do you not get breadsticks when you go to Olive Garden? It is a thing. So this is also kind of like a silly one, but I really liked Mr. Preston. Mr. Preston just reminded me of like the stand-in grandpa that's just there watching out for you because he genuinely like believes in you as a person and cares about your well-being. And the fact that it was just, I don't know, everybody needs Mr. Preston in their life. Everybody does.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Those were all my likes. I didn't have any.
Yeah, my last like is kind of a spoiler, so I'm just gonna save it because it's definitely a spoiler. Okay. I can't not talk about it without spoiling. So yeah. Well, that is the end of our non-spoiler discussion of The Maid by Nita Prose. If you haven't checked it out, I think you should check it out. And all of you true crime fans out there, make Dawn feel like she's not the only one in her corner and read this book and talk to her about it.
If you are not like a person that watches like the first 48 or the ID channel, then you would like it. But if you are really a person who like pays attention to like detective work, you're going, okay, disclaimer, Ashley's at a public library in a teen room. So if you hear voices behind her, that's what that is. But yeah, if you are really into true crime, then, just, you've been warned.
100%. So, all right, well, we are going to spoil The Maid for you in, I can't do it. Hold on. 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. Now you just gotta do it faster. I do it real fast.